Hello and welcome to another SkaredCast battle report. Today, the next installment of the Fall of the Creator line. We have the Astra Militarum facing off against the Dark Eldar Carnival of Pain. 1500 points. Let's begin. $1,500 points of mechanized armored fury. We have an Imperial Guard senior officer of the Talon Regiment who wants to purge the alien. Having been left in the dark, not knowing that his Lord Commissar has died, he has decided to launch an all-out attack to purge the alien that are sweeping the nearby settlements. Taking his fastest armored column with Lehman Russ support and air support, he is facing off against a carnival of pain. Grotesques, flesh engines, large groups of Cabalites raiding parties. Of course, in reserve, the Dark Eldar are always posed to strike. Let's get on with the game. Hello and welcome to another battle report. This is the next installment of the Fall of the Creator line. The Imperial Guard have decided to do an all-front armored assault against the Carnival of Pain that is terrorizing the local populace. This is the deployment. The Dark Eldar deploy first, and the mission is simple: purge the alien. The Dark Eldar have elected to go first. The Imperial Guard will attempt to seize the initiative. We have the armored column that has deployed with a Vendetta in reserve, a Hellhound in outflanking reserve, and a senior officer in his Chimera, also in reserve, waiting to come on later in the game. So I have Cabalite Warriors, Talos, 6 Grotesques with a Homunculus, with a Scissor Hand, a Kronos, a Ravager with 3 Lances, an Empty Raider, the Lamian is in reserve. I have 20 Cabalite Warriors with 2 Splinter Cannons, 2 Blasters, and my Warlord. I am running primary Coven, 5 Scourge with 4 Haywire Blasters, a Razorwing in reserve, and 5 Racks in a Venom in Deep Strike reserve as well. So, will the Imperial Guard seize the initiative on the Dark Eldar as the day breaks and it's not night fight this turn? They do not. It is Coven, turn 1. The Dark Eldar, sensing impending doom, advance forward at full speed against the reduced flank of the Imperial Guard. The Haywire Blaster Scourge moved up and put 2 hull points on that Chimera, who's then finished off by that Ravager, wrecking the tank, gaining first blood, and pinning the squad inside to disrupt enemy movement. Meanwhile, the rest of the force moved up and boosted, while these Sentinels passed the few cover saves they were required to make as they're sneaking through the Manufactorum. We're moving on to Imperial Guard, turn 1. What will their retaliation be as the guns begin to open fire? The Imperial Guard armored column opened fire in full force, forcing the Ravager into jinking but getting it immobilized as well, killing 7 of the large unit of warriors and also killing 4 out of the 5 Scourge, also forcing this into jinking and putting a hull point on the Raider itself. The Dark Eldar have taken a pounding from the Imperial Guard force, and now the reserves are posed to try to arrive. We have the Racks in their deep striking Venom. It does not arrive, and the Razorwing Jet Fighter does arrive. Oh, and the Lamian does arrive as well. Let's move on to turn 2. The Dark Eldar Coven have moved forward. Razorwing Jet Fighter arriving, blasting 4 models out of that unit, putting a hull point on that with monoscythe missiles and doing nothing to the veteran Chimera. The Cabalite Warriors moved and ran. The Grotesques moved up and failed a charge against the Sentinels. The other Lances were ineffective. and this lance, well, sorry, and then there was a lance that put a hull point and stunned and shook the guys inside from the furthest side Chimera. So no kill points gained this round. But we are moving to Imperial Guard turn 2, and there are 3 reserves to be made.
Vendetta
arrives.
Senior officer
Arrives.
and Hellhound.
Does not arrive. Lots of shooting, 2 hull points on this raider that is now snap shooting. 1 more hull point onto this raider and it can only snap shoot. 1 more hull point onto this raider and it can only snap shoot. But none of them died. The Vendetta came in, guns blazing, immobilizing the Raise Wing, and then smart maneuver in the charge. He's put his Sentinel 18 inches in front of my fearless blob of warriors, so that my Raise Wing will die now that I cannot place him. Other than that, that's it. Some maneuvering on this end over here, and over here we also had the senior officer show up. So we're moving on to Dark Eldar turn 3, and will the deep striking Venom arrive? It does. The Talos was able to charge in, kill one of the Sentinels, and then they piled into this other Sentinel over here, while the Kronos moved up. He's on the ground floor and ran, and the Grotesque moved up and ran. Shooting was ineffective, and I didn't do anything to any of the tanks. And now the Vendetta's at large since my Raise Wing has died, but that Sentinel is tying me up during his turn. Hopefully I can break out of that, start going to kill some things, while the Venom with the Rax scattered into the enemy and went back into ongoing reserves. So, does the Hellhound arrive from reserves to support the Imperial advance? It does. Imperial Guard get 3 kill points. The Hellhound wrecked that raider, but the Scourge survived, and then the Scourge passed an armor save against the multi-laser, so he lived. And we're just about to do that combat there. 1 wound on a Grotesque. That raider has died, and there's 1 Cabalite warrior hiding in the ruins, and he has failed his pinning check. The Ravager died to the Vendetta, but they're still at large. And these tanks boosted up and moved as far away as possible from the Grotesques. This Chimera immobilized itself while the other unit is now running through the building. And this boosted up with the Meltivets in it. And there's still a unit of guys inside there as well. Now we're moving on to Dark Eldar turn 3 after this combat. And we will do it on camera for fun. So we have 1 Talos who's going to try and rip open this Sentinel, needing 3s to hit. And he got 1 hit, and he needs that is a pen, and it's +2 to whatever I roll for a cocked dice for a 3. So they are going to stay put in combat. Stuff is getting nitty-gritty. The lone Scourge jumped over here, put the last hull point on that Chimera. The Venom that deep struck landed on the top of this building and was fine, and blasted 3 out of that unit, but they passed their morale test. The Grotesques charged in and wrecked that Chimera, forcing the occupants to emergency disembark, while the Talos ripped open the Sentinel and exploded, killing 2 of the Cabalite warriors only, putting 1 wound on a Grotesque, but it will not die, because it's now turn 4, and they have it will not die now. And the Kronos failed a charge against the Veterans Chimera. So we are moving on to Imperial Guard turn 4, and it's now starting to get bloody. The Vendetta went into hover mode, dropped 4 flamers, and combined the 4 flamers and the flamer from the Hellhound, killed a bunch of dudes in here, and even wounded my Warlord once, but because he has Feel No Pain and Toughness 4, he was able to survive the Hellhound hits. Kronos took a wound from the last cannons. That lone raider in that building survived the heavy flamer and multi-laser and stubber and pistols out of that Chimera. That Lehman Russ immobilized itself, while the Scourge, defying all odds, survived all the shooting from the Vanquisher cannon and even some las guns, And this Venom took 1 hull point and lost one of its splinter cannons. And that's it. Other than that, the Meltavets boosted up this way, trying to get away from the Carnival of Pain. And we're moving on to turn 5 for the Dark Eldar forces. Pivotal turn for the Dark Kin. We had the big grotesque unit spread out to try and charge the Wall of Death and lose an entire grotesque, meaning they failed the charge. The Kronos charged into this small unit after siphoning 3 of their number. The Rex got out of their tank, charged into that unit, losing 3 to Overwatch, and they ran them all down. The one Scourge put an extra hull point on in shooting and then charged in as well and put 1 more hull point in as well, while this blaster did nothing to that tank as well. And the Talos made a long charge and flipped over the Hellhound, killing it as well. So we're moving on to Imperial Guard turn 5. What an impressive turn. Flamers, the Vanquisher cannon, the rest of the Exterminator shots killed the Cablite Warrior unit with my Warlord in it, gaining 3 points, 1 for Warlord and 2 kill points. The HQ unit got out here, finally killed that last Cablite Warrior that was there. The multi-laser helped kill, and the Heavy Flamer on the hull of that tank helped kill that unit of Cablite Warriors. In shooting, the Vendetta went back into zooming, and the Meltavets got out and did nothing against the Talos. And the Kronos killed 1 of that unit, but they held in combat, while this unit of Imperial Guardsmen killed the 2 Rex that were standing on the wreck of the Chimera. So, as it stands, there's a 1-point victory for the Imperial Guard. Will it go on to turn 5? We shall let my brother roll yet again to see if it does. And the game continues. The Talos killed all the Meltavets. The Grotesquerie, or the Grotesques, did a multi-charge, charging that Chimera, charging this unit of Imperial Guardsmen, killing both of them. And we had the Kronos finally killing that small unit, while this Venom over here only killed 1 model out of that unit. And then the Scourge once again failed to kill the last hull point off that Leman Russ with both shooting and furious charging close combat. So we're moving on to Imperial Guard turn 6. Could be the end of this very bloody battle. The Chimera moved forward to claim Linebreaker from the Dark Eldar, and the Warlord ran away very, very far away with a move order to get away from the Grotesques. The Scourge that could not die finally died to an autocannon to the face, and this Kronos survived both the Vendetta and the Vanquisher shooting at it with 1 wound remaining, while this little Venom survived a charge with a flicker field save. Could be the end of the game. Does it continue to a turn 7? Does not. Good game. Victory to the Dark Eldar force with 11 points to 10 points. What a crazy, close fought game. But in the fall of the crater line, the commander goes back to tell the tale of defeat to his commanders. Good game. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot to the patrons who make this possible. If you'd like to become a patron, check down below for the links for perks and stuff with the channel. And Joaquin, any last words?
This was a bloody, bloody battle, as you can tell by all the wreckage all over the battlefield. The Imperial Commander was eager and reckless, so in a full frontal assault to take the city. However, the retaliation from the Dark Eldar was too much for his naive approach. Therefore, he forced a withdrawal. We'll attempt this again another time.
I really, really like this game. Make sure you stay tuned for the Tactical Corner with all the pictures where I talk about things that I worked this game. Played a very unorthodox Coven primary detachment list, so it was really fun. Like these grotesques all have "it will not die," so they all ended the game on full wounds, which is awesome. And my warlord did die though, so we'll fill that into the campaign. Thanks a lot for watching, tuning in, subscribing, commenting. You guys make this possible, and I really appreciate all your guys' support. And moving on to the next chapter of the Crater Line. Hello and welcome to another Tactical Corner. So this time we continued the Crater Line campaign with a kill point mission. All fluff aside, kill point missions are one of the toughest missions for the Dark Eldar, and I decided to run a very unorthodox Coven army list with a huge pack of grotesques, a Talos, a Kronos, some Rax, a couple of Homunculus, Venom, a Raider. So it's a very eclectic style list. When we showed up to the game, my brother had decided to bring a full-out mechanized Imperial Guard tank force. One of the toughest matchups for the Dark Eldar. 6 different Chimeras, 2 Leman Russes that are designed to pop tanks, a Vendetta, Flamers, autocannons. It was a very tough list personally for me to deal with. So having 2 large fearless blobs, the Cabalite Warriors and the Grotesques, I decided to push forward at full force, and he of course did the smart thing and castled in one flank. But he knew he was going to get pinned at some point, and he did try and burst forward in around turn 3 to get out of the pinning maneuver. Now, turn 3 and 4 is really where the Coven slow, methodical army ended up bringing its full force to bear and getting into combat with the nice tanks, just ripping them to shreds, gaining lots of points. The Talos was probably one of the better units, going down a flank, getting rid of the Hellhound, and it just shows that that unit is one of the most beneficial units to take in a Coven or even a Dark Eldar resiliency army. All in all, this game really showcases some of the different ways you can play the Dark Kin, and also how to play to the mission. Even though it was a very, very close mission, the Dark Eldar did come out on top. Well, thanks a lot for tuning in. Thank you to all the patrons that make this possible. Liking, sharing, and subscribing. Skari out.